Hi guys, I'm Amy Cornell and I'm your Texas broker with Front Real Estate, here to help you real estate better. So let's talk about backup offers, right? So I mentioned this in a couple of other videos talking about the potential of a buyer writing a backup offer to somebody who is already under contract. Now this could be done in a couple of different ways. This could be done on something that is just straight under contract, like there was no contingency for the sale of another property. Or this can be done in conjunction with a kick-out provision that was created by the addendum for sale of other property on the first buyer. Okay, so we've talked about that addendum. And so if the first buyer was trying to sell their other property, they wanted to make it contingent on the sale of that property, then there is a kick-out provision if they are using the appropriate TREC forms. And so you can write a backup offer and potentially kick that buyer out if the seller accepts your backup offer. And so we often see backup offers happen in situations like that. Where we don't see backup offers happen as much as when a property is just under option or under contract. I would encourage you though to really consider writing backup offers if you have a client that thinks that they really like that house, because y'all, a certain percentage of offers fall out, right? There are some things that just happen as part of a contract that it terminates. And so don't be afraid to write a backup offer, even if you feel like it's a waste of time, right? It could be, but it could also be the one that works. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Let me switch over to my PowerPoint real quick. And so just a few points about backup offers is there are ways to make a more official backup offer versus an unofficial backup offer. So if a backup offer is made official, and I'm going to show you the form in just a minute of what it would take to make it official, when that is accepted by the seller, so everything is signed off on, we are in agreement. If something happens to contract number 1, contract number 2 goes into effect immediately. If that happens, whether it ever goes into number 1 or not, but once the backup is agreed on, then earnest money and option fee are due. Okay, this isn't just a, hey, just in case, we'll decide if we want to go. No, you got to go ahead and put up the earnest money and the option fee. So what some people do when they're writing a backup offer is they amend their maybe initial offer, or they make the offer and do a more lower amount for earnest money or option fee. They don't go to that 1% for earnest money and 10% for that. They may do something like $100 earnest money and $10 option fee. Now, seller may not take that. So I don't know what to tell you on it, but just know that you've got to pay both of those. But really, when you think about it, you've got basically an option from right when you execute that all the way through when the first contract fails, and then your number of days in the option. So you've got a really long option that you can get that earnest money back at any point during that. So that's pretty protected. So then really all you're talking about is the option fee. And so, yeah, and that would pinch a little bit to pay that option fee and never really ever go into first position. But you are paying for the benefit of being the guy that's number 2. Nobody else can get in ahead of you. If something happened to that contract, they don't get to go back and go for highest and best offers, anything like that. You automatically are in. And so you're paying for that a little bit for that option fee. All right. So just think about that as that goes, that there are some ways to do that. So sometimes agents will say, could we just make this unofficial? We're going to go with you if something happens with deal number 1. I don't love that because I want to be official. I want to really get it. But if your buyer's okay with that and they're saying, yeah, it's probably going to go through anyway, I'm not really that worried, then hey, maybe unofficial is a great way to go. You're first in line, unofficially, and as soon as something happens with deal 1, then y'all will figure out the rest of the deal terms and get something executed. That could be a good thing, especially if your buyer doesn't really want to pay that money for the earnest money and the option fee up front, then that could be a good option. The other thing to think about on this, and why I see so many agents, I think, want to go unofficial instead of official, is they really don't understand that form. They really don't understand what a backup offer is. And it's a little awkward for you to be the other agent to try to explain how a backup offer could really benefit their seller. I mean, their seller could get option fee and never have to do anything for that, right? That's just kind of free money on it. And they already have a pre-negotiated deal to go in and help get that closed right after. So I don't think it's a bad thing. However, it's just a little awkward to really explain it. So let's talk about the form a little bit so that way you can see what it actually looks like, and you cannot be one of those listing agents that doesn't know how the form will work. All right, so here it is. This is the latest form that we have. It's from 2011. It's the addendum for backup contract to the contract concerning the property at blank for the address of the property. All right, then I'm going to read this letter A, B, and C. A is the contract to which this addendum is attached, the backup contract, is binding upon execution of the parties, right? So that's what I was saying. Hey, the earnest money and option fee must be paid as provided in the backup contract. So trying to make it clear there. The backup contract is contingent upon termination of a previous contract known as the first contract, dated blank. Now that date should be in MLS for you. So there should be a date of when the property went under contract. For the sale of the property, except as provided by this addendum, neither party is required to perform under the backup contract while it is contingent upon termination of the first contract. So what does that mean? That means that your buyer does not have to do their inspection right now. They also do not have to go forward with their financing right now until they go into first position. Then that starts kicking off all of the requirements for both the buyer and the seller in the actual contract when it goes live. Until then, we're just holding tight. Okay, but we are depositing the earnest money and the option fee. I will tell you, I think that paragraph is really confusingly written, but it's what we've got, and that is the interpretation that's out there. Okay, paragraph B. If the first contract does not terminate on or before blank, the backup contract terminates and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. Seller must notify buyer immediately of the termination of the first contract. For purposes of performance, the effective date of the backup contract changes to the date the buyer receives notice of termination of the first contract, and that is the amended effective date. Again, I think that's really confusing the way they have that written, but it's basically saying, hey, I'm going to stick with you as the backup up until this day, but after that, I'm walking away. I just want my earnest money back because I'm assuming that it's going to close. I don't really understand why they have a date there. To me, I don't want it to go ahead and run all the way through forever, right? Because I still want to be the backup. So if they have some sort of contract that is good through 6 months from now, well, I want to be there on 6 months and 1 day. So I normally put that date way out there because I really don't want it to just terminate automatically. I want to go ahead and extend through. However your buyer wants to do that, that's totally fine. Okay, letter C. An amendment or modification of the first contract will not terminate the first contract. So some people think like, well, if the first contract buyer asks for anything, then we just go in. Well, not really. They could ask for, the HVAC to be fixed, or they could ask for an extension of their contract, something like that. Their contract would still be good. All right, letter D. If buyer has the unrestricted right to terminate the backup contract, the time for giving... Okay, so the unrestricted right to terminate, right? That's paragraph 23. All right, so if buyer has the unrestricted right to terminate the backup contract, the time for giving notice of termination begins upon the effective date of the backup contract, continues after the amended effective date, and ends upon the expiration of the buyer's unrestricted right to terminate the backup contract. Oh, it's a very confusing written document, but basically that's saying, right, you have an option from when you execute the backup all the way through when you go into first position, and then your number of days in the option period in paragraph 23. All right, and then paragraph E, for purposes of this addendum, time is of the essence. Strict compliance with the times for performance stated herein is required. All right, so hopefully this helps you feel a little more confident about writing a backup offer. If you are not confident in what happens with the contingent, then watch that video, learn more about how a contingent works and what that kickout status is, because it's a lot, y'all. But it can totally give you an option to get some really cool houses for your buyers. And that way then you're also not out there showing them for their less than favorite deal. Let them get that house that they want and make sure that you're repping them well. Good luck.